Hello.
Hi, greetings everyone.
Good morning.
Hi, yeah, greetings. Yeah.
Do you hear me? Hi, do you hear me?
Yes, I'm hearing you. Are we hearing you? Yep.
We hear you fine.
Yeah.
Paul, can I ask you a question?
Certainly.
I got a request from the somebody in Kuwait who wants us to do something for the MENA region, which would look at content issues and privacy issues and data literacy issues. Can I send it to you so that we work together on this?
With pleasure, with pleasure.
And then, you know, Libya is now representing your region on the yes.
Yes.
So we will be involving Libya as well.
This is awesome. Yeah, very happy to hear this. Yeah,
good.
Excellent.
All right. So you handle Kuwait, huh?
Yes, no problem. Yeah, just send me the contacts and I'll follow up with them. Yeah.
Okay, great.
My pleasure. All right.
Hello, everyone.
Hi, good morning, Sang-Hong.
Hi, Kosi.
Hi.
Hi, Professor Kindu.
Hi.
I was just reading your project proposal. It looks really great.
Yang Hong, maybe you should tell Stephen his camera is a bit off.
Yeah, Stephen, are you there? Actually, I'm not the moderator. It was Kosi. I just want to check with my co-presenter, David. Hi, Professor Suter, are you there?
I am, but my coffee machine is talking to me at the moment. It's making a loud noise. So
but why don't you turn on your camera so I can see you? Actually, Kosi, I heard that we were only allowed to talk 5 minutes.
Yes, yes.
Okay. So David, our presentation, you know, we have only 4 or 5 minutes. Maybe you talk 3.5 minutes. I will talk 1.5 minutes.
But I think some people are not turning up, so you would take their time.
Yeah,
how many people?
We have Kamel out. Kamel cannot be with us.
Okay.
Kamel from Tunisia. Yeah. Is one person I have received information from him this morning. I don't know. We have Elvis attend with Elvis. Do you have Elvis online, please?
yes, I'm
Okay, okay, it's okay. We have just one person outside.
So that will give you 5 minutes for Xiang Hong and 5 minutes for David.
Oh, thank you, Dorothy, for fighting for our presentation. I will refrain from talking so much. I think, David, you can use your 4 minutes. I will try to limit to 2 or 3 minutes.
Basically what I said at the IGF. Does that make sense, or will everybody who's in this meeting have been at the IGF?
It will be great also to have 2 minutes for people to interact with us. It will be very fine.
Please, can they put questions in chat?
Yes, possible also. We have interpretation. It's possible to speak your own language. You have interpretation now. I don't know if you check it.
I think they do not have Akan interpretation. You mean English or French? You know, so we will speak the colonial languages.
So what is colonial language? English and French?
Exactly.
Those are not our languages. We
I
have
could
our
talk in
own
Chinese.
languages.
Okay.
I don't think they have
I will
it.
talk in Lingala.
Yeah. Alain, where are you from? You're from the Congo? Cameroon?
Yes, Nazamon Congo.
Ah,
I am from
Mercy,
okay.
how could you tell?
Because he speaks Lingala. That is their
Yes.
language in that
Okay.
region, one of their big languages. They have many languages, but that's one of the big ones.
So how many African language do you, can you tell?
Oh, we cannot count that because we know for each country, somebody can say like from Benin, he speaks Mina, or
Exactly.
he speaks Yoruba, or he speaks Igbo, or in Ghana, he speaks Sisala, Bambala. I mean, there's so many languages, and we can tell sometimes by the name what language, and sometimes we know the person, so we know the language. So we know hundreds of languages.
Oh, that's amazing. That's more than the artificial intelligence can do.
But we can't speak them. I know Lingala, but I cannot say a word in Lingala.
Wow.
Yeah. But I know words in Pearl, in Mina, in Wolof, Yoruba, my own languages in Ghana, you know, but just a few. But most Africans are fluent in at least 3 African languages, I can say.
So I read the data that in the world, there are 7,000 languages in total. Maybe the majority are really being spoken in Africa.
But it's time.
We will start in 1 minute.
It's the Pacific that is the
I think we are enjoying the chatting more than the workshop.
Okay.
We will enjoy both.
Please, I don't know if some speaker have a presentation to make. Do you check if you have a hand?
Yes, I do. I also tried the share screen. I think it works on me. So when it's my turn, I will share my screen and then I will co-present it with David Suter.
Okay, it's okay. We are waiting for one guy, but we don't attend.
Yeah.
But we can start. It's time for us now.
I'm just checking mine. Okay, good. All right, yep, I'm good to go.
Okay, thank you, everyone. Thank you to be here with us. Is our second action with Internet
Merci à chacun.
Universality indicator.
Merci d'être avec nous.
Our topic today is advancing digital transformation in Africa region.
Notre sujet aujourd'hui,
UNESCO Internet Universality Rome Principle and Indicators.
c'est avancer.
There's a problem with the interpretation. It is interfering with you, Kosi.
Yeah, I think we are all hearing the interpretation, whether or not we ask for it.
Let me check. I'm supposed to.
I think you can mute
the
the original audio in the interpretation. There's an option.
We did that. We are still hearing it.
Okay. Can you choose just one language? Don't make it in. Okay.
You have no work.
Okay.
It's fine. I got it.
Thank you. Now, we're supposed to have on board now our president from African City Foundation. I don't see him online. Yes, let me have one.
On a au niveau du conseil.
It's not online. Okay, but
il n'est pas en ligne.
We will start with the intervention from UNESCO. We will get floor to the director of UNESCO. We will give us.
On va aller avec l'intervention avec les personnels de l'UNESCO.
Hello, do you mean it's me?
Yes, we can hear you.
Oh, thank you.
Oui, on peut t'entendre.
Thank you, Kosi. It's my great
Merci,
pleasure
Kosi.
to be here. My name is Xian Hong.
C'est un
I'm
plaisir
going
d'être
to
avec toi.
present the project of UNESCO Internet Universality
Je
Rome
vais présenter
Indicator
le projet de
project
l'UNESCO
together with our international expert, Professor
sur
David Suter,
l'universalité
who is also the leading author of those 300 indicators to measure
avec
the
notre
Rome
professeur
principle.
Dorothy
If
Godin.
allow me, I'm going to share my
Si vous me
screen.
permettez,
We are going to
nous allons
present together. I trust you can all see my
présenter
screen.
ensemble. Vous
Yes.
pouvez voir mon écran.
Thank
Yes.
you. Thank you.
Merci.
Right. As all of us, I mean, most of us have been to the global IGF last week. We have seen
Comme on était
such
tous
increasing
la semaine
demand
dernière,
for principles to govern the internet so that it is a public good. We have seen so much demand for need to improve, to strengthen the policymaking capacity of the national governments, particularly from Africa and the other developing world, because the digital ecosystem is getting so complicated and complex for the national policymakers to identify the real challenges and also harness the potentials to develop themselves. That's why we are having the Internet Universality indicators here to help and to support all the countries who are all in the path towards the digitizing its society for achieving the sustainable development and also defending the human rights. I think the best person who can really unpack these indicators would be David Suter, who has been the author of the indicator and also has been reviewing and guiding a number of national assessments in this project. So now I'd like to invite David to join me to unpack this framework. David, could you please take the floor?
Okay, thank you, Xian Hong. I'll give a very brief description of the indicators, which I led the development of for UNESCO with my colleague Henri van der Spey. So there are two versions of the indicators. There's a full set which has 300 indicators or so, and a core set which has just over 100. And you may ask why there are so many. Well, the reason is because we're trying to provide the opportunity to build a collage of the evidence that is available within any individual country. And that the scope and scale of that information that is available is going to vary greatly from one place to another. There isn't any country where it'll be possible to answer every question set out in the indicators, but in every country, it should be possible to build enough evidence from what is available to respond to the framework as a whole. Most national studies, I think almost all of them, have focused on the core set of indicators, but we do hope you'll look at the broader set and that you'll include some from that which you think is particularly relevant to the country that you're looking at. So the indicators, if you change to the next slide, Xian Hong, the indicators are grouped into 5 categories. And 4 of these are the overarching categories in UNESCO's concept of internet universality. That's rights, openness, access, and multi-stakeholder participation. Sorry, the slide's not been changed. So if
sorry, I'm here.
And the 5th area covers the cross-cutting issues which are concerned with gender, children, sustainability, trust, and the legal and ethical aspects of the internet. Now, none of these categories is more important than another. Each of the categories is divided into themes, which you'll see on the screen there. And each theme has a number of questions which are associated with it and indicators for those questions. And the indicators are in 3 main types. So some are concerned with whether or not there are particular legal norms or institutions in place. Some of them are quantitative and others are qualitative. So they're about looking at the evidence that is available, the perceptions of experts, the perceptions of the wider public of the internet environment, and making an assessment of credible evidence from those assessments. Everything here needs to be treated with caution. Every piece of evidence needs to be looked at to say who is saying this, why are they saying it, what do they want us to think as a result of what they're saying, what is it that's not included. So on the next slide, UNESCO's developed a process and a reporting structure that it has asked everyone who uses the indicators to follow if they want the reports to be published by UNESCO. So the first issue here is the multi-stakeholder character of the assessment process. Every study should have a multi-stakeholder advisory board supported by a research team that draws on expertise within all of the stakeholder communities. So to be valid for UNESCO publication, a study using the indicators should not be led by one party, should not be led by government or business or a civil society organization. It should reflect the diversity of perspectives and should be genuinely collaborative. And data should be gathered critically. So the aim is to learn as much about the internet environment as possible and about the links between the different categories, the different themes. It shouldn't be a box ticking exercise where you look at one thing and then look at another. It should be about the relationship between them and reported in that way. So a good report will consider more than just the answers to the individual questions, but how they fit together. And it will make recommendations that are to do with the internet environment as a whole, and as well as responding to the specific requirements of individual indicators. It's really important from UNESCO's point of view that recommendations should be more than aspirations, that they should have actual practical relevance in the country which is being studied, and that they should be things that can be realistically brought forward, realistically achieved in the relatively near future by the stakeholders concerned. So on the final slide, I will talk to 3 or 4 points coming from this. So the RoamX framework is holistic. It covers aspects of the internet that are critical to UNESCO's mandate. Not every aspect of the internet, but those that are critical to UNESCO's mandate. It emphasizes the citizen in terms of rights and access, and it emphasizes what governments and businesses should do to benefit the citizen, not just to benefit themselves. Also, I think not just what they should do, but also what they should not do. And it provides a methodology which seeks to put together this collage, this big picture of evidence that is available within a country, to identify where there are gaps, and then to bring about recommendations about where stakeholders can move things forward to the benefit of all. And lastly, I think it's a work in progress. So we have had about 30 experiences so far of the use of the indicators. Each of them tells us something in the UNESCO team about what we can do to refine them, to make them better, and make them more useful to those who are making the studies and to people within the countries that are being studied. So we are constantly reviewing the framework, and we intend a more systematic review of it in the light of what people like yourselves tell us as we move forward. So thanks. Back to you, Jan Hong.
Thank you very much, David. Just following what you have said, I'd like to highlight the beautiful thing of this project. As David well said, it's about output, which means to really measure all those indicators. Every single indicator can be very powerful because each shed light to the critical issue, which are so crucial not only for UNESCO's mandate, but also really is addressing the burning challenges of entire digital transformation for every country. For example, the meaningful connectivity, it's a buzzword of this year's global IGF. It's also the challenge for all African countries. We have been fighting digital divide for decades. Then we realized that the only connection at the infrastructure level is not sufficient. We need to make sense of this access. We need to make the internet access to be accessed by people for using them to empower themselves. We need to have the internet access to have multi-language content, to have the information, to have the truthful information, to have the people, marginalized groups, people with disabilities, to have a gender equality, children's rights to be all promoted and fostered through the internet access. Otherwise, internet access can be useless in many cases. That's why we see the value of this output-oriented project. On the other hand, I like to highlight is the process. It's not just research, but it's really a policy making and policy discussion process to be triggered and experimented in a country when it starts to assess the indicator. From these slides, you see that the creation, composition, and also engagement of this multi-stakeholder advisory board would be the first step, and the entire process success in the project. Every country being assessed needs to go through this process to trigger the decision makers to have the consensus on the digital issues, and also to agree or disagree on the policy recommendations and what the action to be taken after assessment. So that's another important aspect I like to inform all the countries who are interested to do the assessment. The process is a key. The process itself is also the end, because even after assessment of the indicator in the country, the multi-stakeholder advisory approach will persist, should be a new norm for the country when they work on the internet policy making process. The rest part of slides, I would just go through them very quickly about dynamic collation. You are all welcome to follow us on this website and through our newsletter. And we are organizing 20 or 30 plus advocacy events like we are having here every year at African IGF and other national IGFs in the African countries. So you can easily find us. We are ready to support to all countries and stakeholders on this project. And the last slide, I like to stress that what we are going to do further, what our plan in the future. First of all, we like to expand the Rome principles and indicators in all countries, particularly in Africa. Sorry. Africa is a global priority for UNESCO. Also, I perceive such an urgency and the need for us to assess the Rome principles indicator in all the African countries, because Africa is still fighting the digital divide, and is perceiving even enlarged divide in the emerging technologies such as AI. We need, on one hand, not only to empower African governments and all stakeholders to use this digital innovation as an opportunity to have the frog leap for achieving the SDG and all the national development goals. On the other hand, we need to be careful to prevent harms and risks, because the internet and the digital ecosystem are really being dominated by a few international actors and the countries, and they are really reaping the profits and exploiting data globally. African country and the policymaker needs to be aware of the key issues. I think at IGF, I heard an African minister asked about the data protection issue. They found that those international tech companies, they are actually applying the data protection framework differently in Africa and in the rest of the world. If it's in Europe, when they have very strong national and regional protection of data, they will follow all the high standard and to be regulated to protect the individual's personal data. But in Africa, when the national countries don't have a strong framework, in many countries, they are having missing laws to provide protection of citizens' personal data. The companies wouldn't apply the equal strong protection of the data. That's a very signal, that's a very alerting signal that we need to empower the countries who are not that developed in digital, at least to be aware of the risk, to have a good strategy to deal with the collaboration with other countries and internet companies. So I finished my my presentation together with David, and we are looking forward to work with all African countries and all African stakeholders. We are here to support you, and also very happy to stay till the end of session and respond to questions and comments. Thank you.
Thank you, Madam Hu. Thank you, David, for your overview information on the Internet Universality Room project. We will move now to our panelists who will make the assessment in many countries. They will let us know exactly what has been used. We will know with them how the Internet University projects can announce collaboration with all the stakeholders in Africa, especially in some countries who don't make their statement now, how they can collaborate and announce universal human rights for everyone online in Africa. How they can share, also it's important also for them to share with us the challenge they see when they are making the statements. What is the challenge? What are the knowledge we can take in account to move with bad quality statements? We can make all the stakeholders on the table when we are putting the statement on board. How more African countries can also initiate their statements. How is possible for UNESCO to help them, conduct them, let them make voluntary statements by using Internet Universality indicators. For all this, we will move to our panelists to know exactly what is specific action they make when they are making statements, for example, in Kenya. Madam Grace, are you with us? Can you have a floor and let us know the news from Kenya? What is the specific action you do when we are making your statement? What knowledge we can share? Madam Grace, are you with us? She's not yet online. Are you hearing me? Okay. Can we move to Mr. Michel, please, from UNESCO office in Dakar, who leads this project in Dakar with some consultancy. I don't know if it's possible to let us know what the job are doing, what is the news, what has the next step again. Mr. Michel.
Thank you, PC, for the opportunity. I don't know if you are getting me.
Yeah.
Hello.
Yeah,
hello, there's interpretation. Anybody can speak in any language you want. There's interpretation, English and French, please.
Yes. Actually, we conducted the IUR assessment in Senegal for the past 2 years, and now the report is already available. Senegal was one of the first countries to conduct the IUR assessment. And specifically to the point that you have raised, regarding how can the Internet Universality Room project improve national multi-stakeholder collaboration to advance human rights in Africa. When I look in the experience that we had in Senegal, where we set up this multi-stakeholder advisory board, I can notice that the multi-stakeholder advisory board was much more inclusive than what used to be the case with the internet governance forums in the country. We have a variety of stakeholders coming together to exchange on internet, not only from the perspective of infrastructure, on economic or security, but on human rights, on issues that are not generally the main concern of the Internet Governance Forum in the country. So in my perspective, I believe that by providing this forum for multiple stakeholders to discuss about some of the key issues that the Rome framework highlight, it paved the way for the inclusion of the human right, the openness, the accessibility, as well as the multi-stakeholders approach into the development of internet in Senegal. The other point that I see related to the importance of the Rome is when we consider the digital transformation strategy for Africa 2020-2030, which the vision is, among others, to achieve an integrated and inclusive digital society in Africa that improves the quality of life of Africa's citizens. In my understanding, inclusivity and quality of life have strong link with the Rome principles. And I believe that when countries in Africa can engage in applying the Rome principles, they are actually moving forward, achieving this vision layout in the AU strategy on digital transformation. Thank you.
Merci beaucoup à Monsieur Michel pour ce point de vue spécifique de Sénégal sur le processus de mise en place du rapport national sur les indicateurs de l'universalité de l'Internet. Déjà, il y a des questions qui sont dans le chat. J'invite les différents panélistes à regarder de près et au besoin, en donnant des réponses, à y faire donner suite. Déjà, je garde au frais pour Madame Roux le fait de savoir si les indicateurs de l'universalité de l'Internet sont ou pas une complémentarité au principe de la Déclaration africaine des droits et libertés de l'Internet. Et cette information a besoin d'être revisitée. Donc, on va demander à Madame Roux de nous aider à y répondre après l'intervention de Monsieur.
Ah oui, merci de cette question très pertinente. Oui, tout à fait. En fait, l'UNESCO fait une partie de lancement de principes déclaration d'Afrique sur le droit et liberté sur Internet. Il y a des années, j'étais là dans l'occasion. Ça, c'est vraiment très utile avoir les indicateurs développés après, prenant en considération de ce que est là dans les déclarations africaines. Donc, c'est pourquoi nos indicateurs sur droits des humains, ça mesure tous les droits là dans les déclarations africaines, mais aussi ça comprend les manières plus larges. Par exemple, oui, on a la liberté d'expression, l'accès d'information, associations, mais aussi on touche, on mesure le droit de social, culturel et aussi, aussi sur l'économie, sur le boulot. Tout le monde a un droit à accès à l'éducation, diversité culturelle par Internet accès. Donc, je crois que ça, c'est très bon complémentaire pour renforcer et implémenter les principes comme vous avez dans la déclaration africaine de droits et liberté Internet. Merci.
Merci beaucoup. Il semble qu'il n'y a pas eu d'interprétation en anglais, c'est bizarre, mais ce n'est pas grave. Les interprètes vont prendre la main et pour interpréter au fur et à mesure. Je crois que ça va être réglé avec l'appui de la technique. Et on va passer au professeur Kindou qui a eu le privilège de conduire les évaluations aussi bien au Bénin qu'au Niger. Et il serait bien que nous puissions profiter de... Please, can we move, please? Interpretation, please. I have some interference. Can we move? Donc, je disais qu'on va évoluer avec le professeur Kindou qui va partager avec nous les expériences de la mise en place du rapport du Bénin et celui du Niger. Est-ce que ce processus de projet de l'universalité de l'Internet, est-ce que cela a amélioré la collaboration entre les parties prenantes dans le cadre du mécanisme qui a été conduit? Est-ce qu'il a constaté la collaboration entre les parties prenantes dans le sens de faire progresser les droits de l'homme en ligne pour chacun des citoyens au niveau de l'Afrique? Est-ce qu'il y a des défis spécifiques sur lesquels il souhaiterait mettre le zoom pour que les autres pays qui veulent conduire ces évaluations nationales puissent en tenir compte? Et qu'est-ce qu'il pense? Et comment est-ce qu'on doit pouvoir faire pour entreprendre avec efficacité ces évaluations-là et comment l'UNESCO peut aider les différents pays et avec ses équipes d'experts à pouvoir y parvenir en conduisant bien entendu le processus dans un esprit de volontariat géré par chaque pays. Professeur Kindou, vous avez la parole.
Oui, merci beaucoup, Kossi, de donner la parole. Je vais m'exprimer en français. Effectivement, les principes ROAM sont un cadre important, intéressant et qui sont en lien étroit avec tout ce qui concerne la démocratie, tout ce qui concerne la participation citoyenne et tout ce qui concerne donc l'inclusion, notamment des personnes handicapées, des personnes à besoins spécifiques. Tout ce qui concerne également la protection de la dignité humaine, puisqu'on fait référence dans cette évaluation aux questions liées à la protection des femmes, la protection des enfants. Donc, je pense que c'est un matériau important dont on doit se saisir pour arriver à enrichir, notamment dans les pays où ça existe déjà, les codes numériques qui régissent un petit peu le fonctionnement et le développement du numérique de façon générale. Et je pense aussi que l'UNESCO pourrait peut-être saisir l'occasion de la mise en place de ce cadre pour essayer peut-être d'aller plus loin en mettant en place ce qu'on pourrait appeler une charte du développement d'Internet ou une charte du numérique de façon générale que l'on pourrait faire signer aux différents États qui s'engageraient justement à respecter ces principes-là et à aller dans le sens du respect de la liberté d'expression et également de mettre Internet au service du développement. Ce qui a été intéressant dans les différentes expériences menées, notamment au Bénin et au Niger, c'est tout l'enthousiasme qu'il y a autour de ces évaluations. Généralement, quand on arrive dans ces pays et qu'on parle du cadre ROAM, les gens regardent un petit peu en se disant, mais c'est quoi ça? Qu'est-ce que ça va nous apporter? Mais au fur et à mesure qu'on rencontre les personnes, qu'on organise des séances de travail, tout le monde se rend compte de l'importance et on a de plus en plus de personnes qui viennent collaborer et il y a la mayonnaise qui commence à prendre. C'est ça qui est important. C'est pour cela que pour bien mener ces évaluations, je crois qu'il faut multiplier les moments de rencontre et les moments solennels. D'abord, donc, mettre en place un comité consultatif, c'est très important, qui doit être représentatif de l'écosystème du numérique, hein, en essayant de mettre en place aussi, de prendre en compte la parité. Mais je tiens aussi à insister sur le fait que même si la journée de lancement n'est pas demandée forcément par l'UNESCO, c'est important d'avoir une journée de lancement officielle parce que ça permet de mobiliser les différents acteurs et c'est ça qui après va débloquer un certain nombre de choses. Hein. En faisant venir par exemple les médias, on va voir, tout le monde va être sensibilisé et ça va faciliter les choses. Je pense qu'il faut faire maintenant, puisqu'après avoir essayé de faire quelques pays, c'est d'aller à une vitesse de croisière parce que le numérique Internet évolue très vite. Et donc, si nous partons à un rythme de 3 pays africains par an, je pense qu'on on va mettre beaucoup de temps avant de terminer ces évaluations. Alors que nous savons que l'important, ce n'est pas l'évaluation, mais c'est le suivi qui est derrière. Et c'est pour cela que nous devons faire très vite. Donc, dans ce cadre-là, l'IGF, je pense que notamment l'IGF Afrique, hein, a un rôle important à jouer au niveau de la sensibilisation. Vous le faites déjà très bien, mais il faut continuer comme ça, travailler davantage avec l'UNESCO et mener aussi peut-être un travail de sensibilisation important au niveau des gouvernements, notamment des ministres, parce qu'ils ont, c'est eux aussi hein, qui doivent intégrer les recommandations en question, mais aussi sensibiliser des personnes qui sont capables de rédiger ces documents-là, parce que ça demande quand même un certain nombre de compétences, notamment des compétences d'animation de la recherche, même si ce n'est pas un travail de recherche. Il y a des indicateurs à chercher, il y a de la rédaction à faire, il y a des équipes à diriger. Voilà en gros ce que je peux dire pour ne pas dépasser le temps qui m'est imparti. Je pourrais compléter plus tard pendant la période des questions. Je vous remercie pour votre écoute.
Merci beaucoup, professeur Kindou. Des gens pensent aussi qu'il faut y intégrer les parlementaires dans la dynamique. Est-ce que c'est un élément d'angle sur lequel il faut aussi surfer?
Oui, je pense qu'il y a beaucoup d'aspects, notamment la partie droit est très importante. Il y a des questions, il y a la partie, les réglementations qui généralement sur lesquelles les parlementaires peuvent avoir leur mot à dire. Donc, c'est tout à fait important de les sensibiliser. Je pense aussi qu'il y a une dynamique de la sorte hein, qui est en cours en Afrique de l'Ouest, puisqu'il y a une association des parlementaires qui travaillent sur les questions des TIC. Et je pense qu'il serait important de prendre attache avec cette association-là. Je ne sais pas s'il y en a dans d'autres parties de l'Afrique, mais je crois qu'il faut s'aligner sur des initiatives de ce genre. Après, ce que je peux ajouter, c'est que le comité consultatif, on le limite généralement à 20 personnes, mais je crois qu'il ne faut pas hésiter à aller au-delà.
Merci beaucoup, professeur Kindou. On reviendra à vous dès que les questions des participants vous seront adressées. J'invite les participants à poser leurs questions dans le chat ou à lever la main au besoin pour une intervention d'1 minute maximum. Ce serait toujours pour enrichir les discussions. Please, do you have Simon Pierre online now? I don't know if you come back on board. I don't see him before. Please, are you with us, Dr. Pierre? Okay, we don't have it now. We move to Dr. Mulatu. I don't know if Dr. Mulatu from Ethiopia with us here now. He can give us overview from Ethiopia assessment process. Not yet again. Okay. Please, Paul, I will give you floor and to give us the overview from Sudan process. Mr. Flo, do you hear me? Mr. Paul, do you hear me, please? Mr. Paul, do you hear me, please? Anyone can hear me?
Yeah, we can hear you. I think he is Mr. Hector, Paul Hector.
Paul Hector, yeah. Mr. Hector, are you online? Can you take a floor to give us overview from Sudan process, please?
He's not online.
He's not online now. Okay, maybe we will move to Dr. Dorothy, who is a lead of this discussion in West Africa region. She will give us an overview, global overview on this discussion, on what is new to be done, how we can do it, what is the lesson we can share with the people from African continents, which are online now. Each stakeholder from government, from civil society, also from private sector, or what is the point of view we can share with them and to let them know exactly how this process is very important and they need to be on board. Dr. Dorothy, you have the floor.
Thank you, Kosi. I do not use that title, but thank you for awarding it to me. I usually keep things simple and I use my name, Dorothy. I think it will be difficult to overemphasize how important the Internet Universality indicators are. IFAP, UNESCO's Information for All program, was actually established within the framework of the World Summit on Information Society. And at that time, we could not have anticipated the challenges that we have today in building an inclusive and equitable knowledge society, which is what IFAP is all about. In Africa, we have particular challenges in the sense that as we are undergoing our digital transformation, there is a disjunct, there is a big gap between what is happening within our urbanized elites and what is happening for the bulk of our rural populations. And even within the framework of the urbanized elites, as someone just reminded us, there are many stakeholder groups who do not have a good understanding of what is happening in terms of digital transformation. We were talking about parliamentarians, but there are many leaders who have yet to grasp. And so the importance of the Internet Universality indicators is that they put the emphasis on multi-stakeholder dialogue. And that means by force, it has to also be multidisciplinary. And I want to encourage all of you who are participating in this year's IGF to reach out to fellow Africans from disciplines that are not necessarily computer science, computer engineering, information systems, etc. Because what is happening in terms of digital transformation is an overall transformation of the society. And so the engagement has to be really deep. And as the IUI process emphasizes, multi-stakeholder, multidisciplinary. I think this is important if we are not going to lose all the sacrifices we've made over the years in terms of reducing our dependency on others. And I'm not going to pretend that the indicators can help us track all the changes that are taking place. Certainly, they can help us understand better what changes are taking place and understand some of the unintended consequences, but their focus is going to be on digital. And so there are things which are happening on the continent. For example, when we spend huge amounts of taxpayers' money on digital solutions that don't deliver, and there's a huge opportunity cost in terms of basic services for which we no longer have enough budget. That is not necessarily going to be taken care of by the IUIs, but the IUIs will alert us to what is happening in the digital sphere. I want to emphasize the importance of data and collecting better information on what's happening. I talked about the urban-rural divide. For example, with COVID, we did not understand what was happening really for our rural children. Would they be able to have a meaningful connectivity? Or were they going to be deprived of education and urban elites would continue to have education? So we need to have data that is comprehensive and addresses different stakeholder groups. We need to improve our research. And in this way, the indicators are a very important tool for reminding us to deepen the research around these areas, not just in the context of the assessment exercise, but overall to deepen. And so I think that there's no way that we can overemphasize the importance of this exercise. It is truly a capacity building exercise, as even when it comes to civil society on our continent, we still do not have enough civil society on these concerns. And so you would still find some people who are working on issues such as gender violence that have not taken into account what happens to women online. There's so much work to do. And so I'm very happy as the chair of IFAP to stress that we need more African countries to engage around these indicators. We need a more diverse group of people to engage around these indicators within our countries. We know, for example, and I know from the experience in Benin, that the inter-ministerial engagements, the fact that different ministries were talking to each other about the impact of what was happening and their ability to track what was happening was so important. So more research, gather more data, build more understanding, build capacity among all those diverse stakeholder groups, involve fully the private sector, which is profiting so much from the expanding engagement of African populations online. And truly, I think that this particular exercise will help us to build that inclusive and equitable knowledge society that IFAP has as its mandate, but also overall to improve policy on the basis of evidence and knowledge sharing. So I hope that there will be many questions. Thank you.
Thank you, Chair. Thank you for this point of view. On a encore des questions dans le chat. plusieurs questions sur le guide, et des gens qui s'interrogent de l'existence ou non de l'orientation globale sur la façon de procéder. Je voudrais les rassurer que tout ceci est formaté, existe déjà dans le cadrage global mis en place par l'UNESCO. Je voudrais laisser Madame Wu, peut-être de vive voix, repréciser cela pour que les gens puissent en avoir la confiance. Madame Wu, êtes-vous avec nous?
Oui, je suis là, donc, je crois que c'est une question posée à professeur Alain Kindou.
Oui, je peux répondre si vous voulez.
D'accord, mais dans toute façon, je crois, oui, c'est sûr. L'évaluation n'est pas l'objectif ultime. C'est vraiment pour améliorer la politique finalement. Aussi, l'UNESCO a déjà soutenu les projets suivis l'évaluation pour savoir qu'est-ce qui s'est passé après l'évaluation, quelles actions sont déjà prêtes pour changer, pour réformer la politique et aussi pratique. Aussi, on vous recommande tous les pays, il faut faire l'évaluation, comment dire, plus suivie parce que l'écosystème évolue si rapide. Dans 5 ans, 6 ans, l'ancienne évaluation est déjà absolue. Il faut continuer l'évaluation et aussi corriger notre politique et practice constamment. OK, professeur Kindou, c'est à vous.
Oui, s'il vous plaît, madame, ou avant le professeur Kindou. D'abord, je n'ai pas compris comment nos amis de la technique fonctionnent pour utiliser mon nom pour poser des questions. C'est un peu bizarre. Mais là, l'une des variantes de la question, c'est de voir quel est le regard, le positionnement de l'UNESCO par rapport aux recommandations qui sont faites. Quel est le positionnement de l'UNESCO sur la mise en œuvre des recommandations? Est-ce que vous pouvez donner un point de vue là-dessus avant qu'on ne passe au professeur Kindou?
Donc, vous voulez savoir les exemples?
What UNESCO can done with a country who make their statement with some recommendation to after the statement they have some recommendation. What can UNESCO help them? How UNESCO can help them?
After the evaluation, after the
assessment?
After
the assessment and the assessment, what is the news from UNESCO? What help they can have?
That's a very good question because we are still in the initial stage of having all the countries to start the assessment. So we have been supporting financially, technically, morally, politically to start the evaluation. Now we are facing the stage 2 because a number of countries have already completed the assessment. As Doris well said, the impact, the monitoring is equally important. So we actually continue to put more financial and technical assistance in these countries. When, for example, in Kenya, we have supported a 2-year review project to check the actions and improvement made following the assessment in Kenya. We are actually encouraging all countries who have completed assessment to do so. Maybe one good practice I hear from some countries, they have the MAB, the Multi-Stakeholder Advisory Board, to continue to exist as a regularized institution to support the actions taken to implement those policy recommendations. I also heard some good practice from some country that they are presenting the results of the assessment to the national parliament, with the lawmakers. They have the new government to endorse the assessment results to try to include them in the national development strategy. So there are many good news and good initiatives for those countries who have complemented the assessment. Definitely, for UNESCO, we are continuing our support for the countries at a different stage.
Thank you, Madame Hu. Professeur Kindou, je vous laisse la parole pour les éléments de réponse.
I wanted to complement what...
I will back to you. I will back to you. Yeah. Professeur Kindou?
Oui, d'accord, oui, oui. OK, non, je voulais juste, je pense que l'essentiel a été dit, mais ce qui est important de savoir, c'est qu'il ne faudrait surtout pas que les rapports que nous déposons puissent rester quelque part sans... Vous m'entendez pas? Vous m'entendez?
Oui, c'est mieux maintenant.
Est-ce que vous m'entendez?
Oui, on vous reçoit, professeur. Oui.
D'accord. Donc, je disais que l'essentiel, c'est de faire en sorte que les rapports puissent être mis en œuvre et ensuite qu'il puisse y avoir un suivi. C'est pour cela que, notamment pour le cas du Bénin, envisager un comité de suivi et qui doit 2 ans après donc revoir quelles sont les recommandations qui ont effectivement été mises en place et qu'est-ce qui n'a pas marché. Mais ça demande aussi un certain nombre de moyens, mais je crois savoir que l'UNESCO a commencé déjà à prendre en compte le financement des comités de suivi. Je pense que Michel va revenir sur cette question-là. Et ce qui est important aussi, c'est, en fait, on a l'habitude de laisser des recommandations comme ça auprès des pays, mais ce qui serait important, je crois, c'est d'accompagner ces pays-là dans la rédaction d'un plan d'action. Parce que quand nous faisons des recommandations et que nous partons sans mettre en place avec eux un plan d'action, ce qui se passe, c'est qu'ils piochent généralement sur les recommandations qui les intéressent, les mettent en œuvre, et il y en a qui sont laissés comme ça. Donc, si on a un plan d'action assez précis avec eux et que les États s'engagent sur ce plan d'action, à la mise en place de ce plan d'action avec l'UNESCO, ça pourrait être une démarche intéressante à mettre en place. Merci.
Merci beaucoup, professeur. On va retourner à M. Michel et ensuite à David. No, David first. David, you have some comment to make and also have a response to Liberia people who need to know if it's possible for their country to make also their assessment. David, please.
Sorry, I've been unable to listen to much of this because I've had no interpretation. And so can you say more specifically what you want me to respond to?
The Liberia people need to know if it's possible for their country to also make the assessment, something like that. Is it possible, yes or no? If yes, what is the mechanism? Can you share something?
Well, I mean, I think that's probably more a question for Zhen Hong. But I mean, I think that the purpose of the indicators was, and the range of indicators was to provide, a sufficient scope for any country to make an assessment. What's required is, firstly, the ability to put together the multi-stakeholder group, and to have the resources to finance the work that is involved, which is a significant amount of work over a period of time. So so it needs to have that kind of multi-stakeholder engagement and also participation from people. Sorry, I see my video is off and turn it on. Then I think it's a matter of assessing the scope of the evidence that is available within the country, looking at the core indicators and at other issues which are significant to the country in the wider set of indicators, and to build a strategy for putting that together. And clearly a lot of that, in a lot of cases, there will not be as substantial a range of material as you might like, but in those cases, actually one of the main findings is that there isn't a lot of there are gaps in the evidence base, and therefore thinking about ways in which those gaps might be addressed. Yeah, so essentially it's it should be possible to do a study using these indicators in any country, but in no country can a study be comprehensive of all of the indicators.
Thank you very much. Thank you, David. On va retourner à Michel pour un tour d'horizon rapide sur les leçons apprises, les défis majeurs, les leçons apprises sur le Sénégal. Je crois que ce n'était pas donné, et ça va être en même temps votre mot de fin. Voilà.
Merci, Kossi. En fait, je voulais un peu compléter d'abord l'intervention de Sharon pour dire que…
Allez-y, oui.
Par rapport à l'accompagnement de l'UNESCO à l'issue de l'étude sur les indicateurs, je prendrai l'exemple du Sénégal où nous avons accompagné le ministère de l'économie numérique à mettre en place, à intégrer les résultats de cette étude dans la plateforme sur l'observatoire du numérique. De telle sorte que désormais, grâce à cet observatoire du numérique qui existe au niveau du pays, le pays va faire un suivi régulier de la mise en œuvre de ces indicateurs. L'autre aspect, c'est que plusieurs des recommandations qui portent issues de l'étude sont en lien avec le mandat de l'UNESCO. Et donc, je prends aussi l'exemple du Sénégal par rapport, par exemple, à l'accès à l'information qui était pointé dans le cadre de l'étude comme étant une faiblesse, un manquement au niveau du Sénégal. L'UNESCO appuie le pays aujourd'hui à pouvoir traduire en acte son projet de loi sur l'accès à l'information. Donc, c'est dire que les indicateurs, l'application des indicateurs permet d'émerger un certain nombre de recommandations, et l'UNESCO, déjà, dans le cadre de ses activités, accompagne les pays à la mise en œuvre des indicateurs suivant son domaine d'intervention, et aussi fait les plaidoyers auprès des autres partenaires afin que ceux-ci puissent aussi prendre action par rapport à leur domaine d'intervention pour l'opérationnalisation des recommandations. Donc, l'exemple du Sénégal, c'est un bon…
Nous avons un défi de temps. Nous avons un défi de temps, 30 secondes.
Voilà, donc pour terminer, je dirais que l'une des leçons que nous avions tirées de l'étude au niveau du Sénégal, en fait, l'un des défis que nous avons rencontrés a été le fait que beaucoup des parties prenantes ont découvert les indicateurs au moment de l'application des indicateurs. Donc, je pense qu'il conviendrait, j'ai vu Sharon qui a parlé de ce mot qui va être développé, il conviendrait effectivement pour les pays qui envisagent d'appliquer les indicateurs de s'assurer qu'un grand nombre des parties prenantes ont d'abord une bonne connaissance du contenu des indicateurs avant d'engager le processus d'évaluation des indicateurs. Merci.
Merci beaucoup, M. Michel. Merci à tous les panélistes et à l'UNESCO pour cette session qui a été très bien enrichie. Merci à Dr Dorothée, professeur Kiendou et tous les autres membres, Madame Dr Wu. Vraiment, merci beaucoup. La Fondation africaine d'éthique a été très heureuse de pouvoir, avec l'UNESCO, organiser cette session, et nous aurons toujours le plaisir de continuer à accompagner les différents pays africains dans le cadre de la mise en œuvre de leur rapport pour que le droit à l'information soit un acquis pour tous dans notre environnement africain. Merci à tous et c'était un plaisir. Est-ce qu'on peut mettre la vidéo pour la photo de famille?
Ah oui. Merci aussi à votre toujours initiative avoir à discussion dans AFIGF en Afrique. Aussi, je voudrais aussi remercier beaucoup de mes collègues jeunes, Karen et aussi Victoria pour aider à organiser ces sessions.
C'est vrai, Karen a été d'une très grande utilité. Merci à Karen. Photo de famille, vous pouvez tous mettre vos caméras, s'il vous plaît, photo de famille. Il y a des gens qui manquent encore à l'appel. Merci à tous.
Merci à vous.
Et à bientôt. La session continue pour l'IGF Afrique. Je vous encourage à rester connectés pour qu'ensemble nous puissions relever les défis qui se posent à l'Afrique dans le domaine de l'Internet. Merci beaucoup. À tout à l'heure.
Merci.
Merci, Kosi.
Merci beaucoup.
Yeah, merci, Kosi. Goodbye, all.
Thank you, Ponsley. Thank you.